Deafheaven, Sunbather.
Keep that heart rate up. Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's sweatiest, stickiest music nerd. I mean, look. Sticky. And it's time for a review of the new Deafheaven album, Sunbather. Deafheaven is a West Coast loud rock outfit. This is their sophomore full-length LP, DEATHWISH Records. It's titled Sunbather. I dug on this band's debut full-length a little bit back in 2011, Roads to Judah. It was really well produced. Playing was great, but stylistically, compositionally, I think this album a little bit fell into line too much with just a lot of popular American-centric black metal sounds at the time. There are just a lot of groups working within the same blueprint that they were on that album, and even though I did like parts of it, I was hoping that on their next album, whenever that would be, now, I guess, they would expand their sound a little bit, get a little bit more adventurous. Now, simply because of the blend of influences on this LP, I could see question after question after question coming up. Does this album even stick out in the greater scheme of atmospheric black metal out there right now? Is it even black metal to begin with? For sure, black metal purists are not going to let Sunbather slip by as if it's, you know, a piece of the Nordic old school. I mean, Cal would know, he was pretty involved with the scene.
If it ain't Burzum, it's bullpucky.
Whether it's black metal or not, Sunbather features plenty of man, wretched vocals, blast beats, tremolo-picked guitar leads, quickly strummed walls of distorted guitar chords that burn like hellfire. It's a pretty familiar recipe that even you should be aware of if you've been paying attention to the more American side of black metal as of late. Bands like Krallice, Liturgy, Agalloch, Wolves in the Throne Room. Still, I think Sunbather does stick out, even though it's not the most technical of releases, and it's not even really the most novel when it comes to ideas. What I think may end up biting this album in the butt is not what is on the album at all, but how people will perceive this LP. I actually think maybe the whole black metal side of Deafheaven's sound, especially on this album, is being oversold a little bit. Because while black metal does play a large role in the music on this album, there's also huge influences coming from post-rock, as well as ambient music, a little bit of noise, screamo, and emo. Even though Deafheaven's stylistic influences are really clear on this album, I feel they still come out on top simply because of their great production, their tight performances on these tracks, as well as the really memorable and just invigorating compositions. Composition really is one of the biggest strengths that this album does have to offer. It is clear from the opening track on this thing, Dreamhouse, which I talked about in an earlier video. The 9-minute monster still floors me with every listen, and it is one of the most overtly black metal tracks on the LP, even as the band builds up to plenty of post-rock-like crescendos. But what really makes the song stand out to me, and what makes Deafheaven stand out stylistically in general, is that they take these very rough, harsh, abrasive, loud rock sounds and mix them with such harmonious, melodious, rich, and uplifting chord progressions and guitar leads. It's kind of like listening to Angels and Corpse Paint plug their harps into distortion pedals and just wailing away on them. And the thing is, Sunbather isn't even the longest track on this LP. There are 3 other monsters on this thing that go up to 10, 11, and 14 minutes. But before I dive into those, I would like to talk about the flow of this LP a little bit. Deafheaven does put quite a bit of work into putting some downtime in between these very long and rough black metal inspired tracks. They segue each long piece with a shorter song. It's a kind of obvious pattern that they lay into on this album, but still it does pay off. Like the song Irresistible, which is this really nice guitar and piano piece, some beautiful harmonized leads on this thing. And what's so great is that the beginning of this track flows very nicely with the end of the previous song on here, Dreamhouse. So it's really like I'm listening to an extension of the same song. I'm really loving the twang of these very patient guitars on this song. It sort of reminds me a bit of Explosions in the Sky in a sense. But what I think is so interesting about this song is that it is so light, it's so beautiful. It really sort of reveals that the band's intentions, even though the previous song was so rough, are not that dark. The other interlude on here, Please Remember, is a 6-minute track. It's a bit of a drone noise piece with a vocal snippet for the first half, and then it goes into some acoustic guitar, some electric guitar leads, and the way the leads weep on the second half of the song, it really reminds me of Godspeed You Black Emperor. Of course, the first half with the noise and the vocal snippet again reminds me of that too. And the third segue on here, Windows, has a huge Godspeed vibe to it as well, with the very ominous guitars hanging in the background. They're looped, they're wailing, they're droning, and over this there is a vocal snippet of a man ranting about religion. It does get a little obnoxious at this point in that it feels like they're drinking from the same fountain again and again with these interludes. As far as the 3 remaining epics on this album go, a lot of these tracks, even though there are blast beats and there are wretches on here, they feature slower moments as well, where the post-rock influences, and I think even the screamo influences that Deafheaven has, really shine through. Like the slow, heavy, distorted chords on the title track from this thing actually reminds me of some of the more post-rock leaning bands in screamo, like Envy, for example, which isn't actually a bad thing. I'm really enjoying the cross-pollination of these genres on this LP, even if it isn't just accurately one genre throughout. Who cares? What I think is awesome is that Deafheaven takes anthemic guitar leads and multifaceted song structures and uses these to bring together one characteristic that I feel black metal, post-rock, and screamo all have in common, and that is just this overwhelming sense of passion. With screamo, it comes through on the melodies, the extreme vocals, sometimes the lyricism. With black metal, it's the speed, it's the abrasion, it's the ferocity. And with post-rock, it's the crescendos and the builds. The track Vertigo on here is another favorite of mine on this LP. Really sort of works in 3 parts. A very slow-moving first third. I love how dreary the introduction to this track is, and when the black metal-inspired chords finally break through, they have this weird, warped, somewhat sour quality to them that really makes them stick out. The song has a really speedy middle, and the end, which is incredibly tortured, has rushes of guitars in there. It is just eargasm after eargasm. The only point at which this album really let me down was on the last couple tracks. Like I said, I wasn't crazy about Window, and as far as the closer on here, the Pecan Tree, the song to me didn't really bring many new ideas melodically or just performance-wise either. The track even has these crunchy, downstroked, syncopated chords that the song Dreamhouse used to stick out. I do like the flow of the track. The very weepy and melodic midpoint does flow nicely into the very crushing end, but with the fade out on here, it really feels like I'm closing to this LP, honestly. No matter what genre you toss this LP into, it is a really engaging, melodic, and passionately intense loud rock album. Tons of quality guitar leads on here, great production, fast, tight performances. Don't let what influences this album or what it's trying to be or whatever you think it's trying to be ruin your listening experience. Just give it a listen. If it appeals to you, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't, you know, and just take it from there. I'm feeling a light to decent 8 on this thing. If you've given it a listen, what did you think of it? Did you love it? Hate it? Why? What do you think I should review next? And that's it. This review is my opinion. If you don't like it, here's a straw. I want to give a shout out to St. Pepsi, Drifts, and Mason. Only the strong subscribe. All mistakes were intentional. Deafheaven, 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 Deafheaven. Sunbather, forever.